What's up, everybody? It is your girl, I am Bree, and welcome to my channel. Hey, my channel. Welcome back. Ah, hey, get it. Oh, what? Sling them dreads. Sling them dreadlocks, girl. You better work. Show them. And now I'm eating snacks. Just like me, just always eating something. Okay, doing something. I don't remember what I was doing. So grooving again. Okay, girl. All right, let's get into it. Now, this is a little story time, and it's gonna be a story time of my first birth with my eldest daughter, how that labor and delivery went, and just maybe a little bit about the pregnancy too, or how I found out and everything, because it was a story, trust me. And first I want to just kind of say, if I'm sounding a little hoarse or congested or whatever, it is because I am a little bit under the weather. My voice is a little bit gone. It sounds a little bit weird, I know. Not COVID related, but just, dealing with a little bit of stress currently, and I'll be honest, not taking care of myself like I should be. So I'm gonna do better. I'm working on it. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get back into the story time. So I had my eldest daughter when I was 24, turning 25. So when I found out I was pregnant with her, it was in the month of my birthday, which is in May. So about 2 weeks before my birthday. Around this time, I was like doing a whole lot. Like, I was working three different jobs, and I was just on the go. I would just go. And so basically, like, I kind of I'm not gonna say I didn't remember, but it slipped my mind as far as my cycle when I was supposed to start it. So one morning I get up, I'm gonna get up, start getting ready to go to work, and I realized, like, hey, where's my period? Like, I didn't start it. I feel like I should have started it by now. And when I looked at my calendar, it was about 5-6 days off of when I should have already started it. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, that's a little odd, but I have been doing a whole lot, so maybe it's thrown off or something. So basically, I took a test. Like, I had a couple of tests at home already. I'm in the bathroom. I take the test. I read the instructions, of course, and then I took the test because at that point in my life, I hadn't taken that many tests to kind of remember, like, okay, how to hold it and how to properly, like, pee on it and everything. So, but anyways, back on the topic. So I took the test, and I look at it, like, I waited like 2-3 minutes and look at it, and it's 2 lines. The little line in the control box, in the test box, there was, lines. So it was 2 lines. So I'm like, let me look at this box. What does that mean? And it for sure said I was pregnant. So at this point, I'm like, my mouth is open. I'm like, what? Oh, I can't be pregnant. I'm not pregnant. I'm just in denial at this point, basically. So I'm trying to get my head together, trying to get my thoughts together, figure out, okay, I just took this test and this is what it said. So um, I just sat there and I kind of just processed it, and I was just really in disbelief at this point. Then I just decided to text my boyfriend and let him know, like, send him a picture of the test, and I'm like, this just happened. And of course he's excited. He's like, how you feel about it? And I'm just like, like, I mean, like, I don't know, like, this is just, I've never, at that point, me being 24, about to be 25, I had never been pregnant before. To a certain point, I didn't think I could get pregnant, or I didn't think I was going to have kids, just because it hadn't happened. I never got pregnant. So it just wasn't something that was like at the front of my mind, like, okay, I'm for sure going to get pregnant and this is what's going to happen. Like, no, that was not the thing that was first thought in my mind, like, oh, I'm pregnant and that's why I'm late, so I eventually went to work, ended up being 2 hours late to work, just trying to think and process what the heck was going on and everything. So I just went on about my day. I had it on my mind the whole time I was at work. Then I decided, like, okay, I'm going to take another test or two. So I grabbed two. Went to the store, I grabbed two. Took both of those tests, and they both, again, were positive. So I'm like, okay, I'm pregnant. She is pregnant. So I was still in shock at this point, but me trying to grasp, like, oh, you are for sure pregnant. You're going to be a mother. You're going to be someone's mother. It was overwhelming, and then it turned into joy and excitement. So, of course, I started telling, like, family and friends. Not a whole lot of people, just people that were, I considered to be close to me. So that happened, and then ended up making a doctor's appointment. Went to the doctor. They tested me, confirmed my pregnancy, and confirmed that I also was 5 to 6 weeks along with the pregnancy. So I found out I was pregnant about 2 weeks before my birthday. And my birthday is May 26th. So yeah, all the plans that I had for my birthday were not going to come about, because it's not a whole lot. I mean, of course, you want to enjoy yourself. You want to have drinks. You want to partake in a couple things. I'm not going to say what exactly, but you want to enjoy yourself, dibble and dabble, whatever, and relax and just have a good time. And I'm just, at that point, I'm like, okay, I can't even do what I originally wanted to. So I was a little down about it, but at the same time, I was excited, because it's like, I'm going to be a mom. Like, I always wanted to be a mother, and to just know, like, yeah, you are able to, regardless of, some past situations, you are able to have a child. So I was excited about it. I was happy. I genuinely was happy once it sunk in that, yeah, this is happening. This is for sure happening. So getting further along into the pregnancy, everything was fine. I had no complications. I got heartburn a couple of times. So that was something new for me, of course. Pretty much, I was very healthy with my pregnancy. Like, I ate pretty good. I gained a decent amount of weight. I gained about 50, 60 pounds. Like, I gained a decent amount of weight. Some might say that was a lot, but to me, because I've always been like a small, petite girl, that amount of weight, it just filled me out a little bit. So I wasn't complaining. I was cool with it. So fast forward to when I'm getting closer to my due date. So, I'm going to the hospital, I'm going to my regular doctor's appointments and everything. And they're letting me know that, it's getting towards the end, going closer to the 9 months. Some people let me know that some people, they start dilating before 9 months, after 9 months. Well, sometimes after 9 months, but usually before 9 months is normal. And I hadn't dilated at all. My doctor was checking me. Towards the end, it's like on a weekly basis. I was not dilating at all. And so I ended up becoming overdue. Went past the due date. Got scheduled for an induction, or to be induced. And that was scheduled for the 26th, so January 26th of 2017. It was scheduled for that afternoon. And so I'm at home trying to do like these different exercises to help me go into labor, right? And nothing was working. Nothing was like helping contractions come or anything. Like, I had no contractions. I mean, I had the Braxton Hicks, but it wasn't anything that was like alarming me to think, okay, something's happening. I probably should start timing my contractions. Like, nothing was consistent. Nothing was like overly painful. None of that. So I'm constantly walking around the house. I'm walking outside. Anywhere I could walk, I'm like squatting. I'm doing all these different things. Everywhere I am, like I'm walking, standing up the entire time, or as much as I can. Nothing was working for me. I even took there's this little trick, some tricks that some people take. It's called evening primrose oil. It's like these capsules of essentially oil, and you take those, and that's supposed to help you go into labor naturally, right? So there was another alternative. A lot of people were recommending I take castor oil. I did that. I also tried acupuncture. I tried having sex. I tried that. I tried certain I even got massages that were explained to me to help you go into labor. Spicy foods. I mean, hot chips. I'm putting hot sauce on everything because it's supposed to agitate. They say that it's supposed to agitate your lining. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but for the people that know what I'm talking about, please comment down below and help me make sense, because I don't think I'm saying it right, but it's supposed to like agitate your lining down there, or your uterus, and it's supposed to help you contract. If I'm explaining it right, I'm not sure if I am, but and then there was another alternative. Like, some people were saying like, oh, I got a pedicure and that helped, so I did that. And then I also I did this shake that people were recommending, where it has castor oil You do then you do castor oil. Put castor oil in it. The evening primrose oil. You use coconut milk or regular milk. It's kind of like basically you're blending up like a smoothie. You put peanut butter, or you could do cashew butter in there, and then you're supposed to blend it all up and drink it. And then you're also supposed to use like apricots or not apricots, the fruit, but like juice or pineapples, something like that, and you put it in there and you blend it up, and you're supposed to drink it. Like, drink the whole picture that you made, like in the blender. Drink all of that, and then you're supposed to go into labor. I did that. That didn't work for me. So I'm trying all these different things. At this point, I'm just getting so like defeated. I'm feeling defeated at this point, because it's like, what am I not doing right? Because my baby is not trying to come out of my body. At that point, I felt done with being pregnant. Okay, like, it was a lot for me because I had gained so much weight, and for me to come from, I originally was 127 before I got pregnant. I never weighed over 130, so I was very small. So going from that to getting up to 170 or close to 170, it was just like, well, it was 170. So it was just like a big change for me. I couldn't wear clothes that I wore before. I was uncomfortable a lot of the time, just because I was holding, a different amount of weight. And then especially on my midsection, it was a lot of pulling. When you're pregnant, you have like the ligament pain, and then your uterus, is stretching, and it's trying to accommodate this baby, and this baby is putting weight on your abdomen. It was just, at that time, it was a lot for me, because this was my first pregnancy. I've never experienced anything like this, and I never really looked into how does it feel to be pregnant. I never asked anyone. No one really had that conversation with me, so that I kind of had an idea. It was just like, oh, this happens, and everything was just like, I'm experiencing it for the first time on my own, and learning, okay, this is what happens to you. Okay, this is new. This isn't something I felt before. So at this point, I'm trying all these different methods. Nothing's working. So my induction was scheduled for, I would have been 41 weeks in like a couple days or something like that. So let's get to the morning of. When I went into labor, so to speak. So I was also trying pregnancy yoga, right? So that it helps you stretches your body, and then it's an exercise for you, a safe exercise for you while you're carrying a child. So I was doing that this particular morning. Before I even did that, let me rewind. Before I even started my pregnancy yoga, I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I just had like these strong pains. And I didn't correlate that to, oh, I'm in labor. or these are the real contractions, because I was getting so many Braxton Hicks contractions. At that point, they just felt like cramps. So I was just like, okay, that's what that is. So that's what I was thinking it was, because it wasn't unbearable. I have a high tolerance for pain anyways. So if I'm feeling something, if it's painful to me, I won't yell out or show discomfort. I would just kind of just bear it. So that's what I was doing, and I just like, okay, just confused at like, okay, what is this? What is that? Okay, the back snakes. Okay, maybe it's because I'm laying on this side, so let me switch sides. So I was laying down at this point. I was laying in bed, so I switched sides, and I like readjusted my hips and my stomach, my pregnant belly, just to see if that would help. And I kind of was like put my arm under my belly, if that makes sense, to kind of lift it up, so it wasn't just like it, so it didn't feel like it wasn't supported. So that helped me for a little bit. I dozed back off, and when I woke back up, it was the same pain that I was feeling. This intense. It was like a really intense cramp. So this was like around 6 a.m. at this point. So I'm like, okay. So I decided to get a pillow and try to prop that under my stomach or on my side to, kind of help ease what was going on, because I'm just still trying to figure out. I'm still just thinking that they're the Braxton Hicks, just because of the intensity. They were bearable. And like I said, the first one was like around 5 a.m. And then it happened again to where it woke me up around 6. So I'm just I'm laying there. I drift back off for a little bit, and maybe like 6:15 happens again. And this one kind of just like woke me up to where I had to sit up. Like laying down was just, it was irritating me to keep laying down. So I'm like, let me just sit up, breathe, maybe, walk around a little bit, stretch my body out a little bit, maybe that'll help me. So I did that. So it's after 6 a.m. and I decide to get up and move around the house, walk around, see if I could jumpstart some contractions, right? This is my intent at this point. So I felt something again, but this was maybe like 40 minutes later, 40, maybe 45 minutes later. And it's this pain. It felt to me similar to a Braxton Hicks from what I had before. So I'm like, okay, I'm just having Braxton Hicks. And this day I was getting scheduled for an induction anyways around in the afternoon, and this was still in the morning. So I'm like, okay, well, I know I got to get ready for that. So I start doing that, start packing, making sure I got my last little minute items that I just threw into my bag. I made sure I had everything, like my charger and toothbrush and my earrings, and make sure I have my slippers and all that type of stuff. Everything that you would put in your delivery bag, or things that you're still using but you want to just kind of throw it in to your bag. So that's what I was doing. After I did that, I decided to eat something. So at this point, I'm not feeling any more pain. That's not happening. I'm okay. So maybe like around 8. This is like 8 a.m. I feel it again, but it's not as intense. It's more like a mild cramp, to where I was still, I was eating, I was walking around, and I was fine. It didn't bother me at all. So then I decided to do some pregnancy yoga. Like, I sat down for a little bit, watched some TV, and in the midst of that, I decided to do some pregnancy yoga. So at this time, it was still in the morning. I started doing my pregnancy yoga, my stretches and everything. And I noticed, like, certain techniques I was doing, I feel that pain again. So then I kind of just decided to take a step back, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is interfering with this pain, like certain movements I'm doing. So I'm like, okay, let me switch positions or do something different. That wasn't helping. So at this point, I'm leaning. Well, I was sitting on the couch, and then I got down off of the couch to get on the floor to do a different pose, and we're getting to a different position, and then I'm feeling this pain. And it was so painful that I tried to stand up. I couldn't stand up. Like, I was literally on my knees, bent over the couch. So my forearms were on the couch of the seat of the couch, and my knees were on the floor. And I couldn't get up. Like, I had to breathe through that pain because it wasn't stopping. It was like a pain that lasted for about a minute, but to me, in that moment, it felt like 10 minutes was going by, and it wasn't stopping. So it finally let up, and I'm like, okay, I'm still confused at this point. I'm still not coming to the conclusion of, girl, you are having real contractions. So I continue doing the pregnancy yoga, and then it happens again. Now at this point, I'm not sure how far apart the minutes were, as far as how the contractions were coming. It was just the amount of pain was unlike the other pain that I was having with Braxton Hicks. So then at this point, this was like around 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. I'm realizing that these may be the real thing. So I had maybe like 3 more before I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna try to go to the hospital, because this is a bit much. Because I was already getting, like I said, I was already scheduled to get induced that day in the afternoon. So I contact my boyfriend, and I tell him, like, I think I'm in labor. I think I'm going into labor. My contractions they really hurt. So I pull out my phone, and I timed the contraction. Now, there's like so many different apps that you can use to like time contractions, but I had like a app specifically for timing the contractions. So I did that for a couple of them, timed a couple of them, and at that point I knew for sure, like, okay, you know what, this is the real contraction. And they were, when I say they were painful, they were like, they damn near, like, when I had it, it took the wind out of it. Like, it like literally took the wind out of my body. I felt like I couldn't breathe, and it was harder for me to breathe. And I'm just like, oh, okay, this is a lot all at once. Those contractions were giving me all they had, and I was taking it. And yeah, it was very, very intense. So um I'm still at home by myself at this point. uh at some point, my boyfriend did get there, and this was like, I want to say, it wasn't that far. It wasn't that much later, because the contractions kind of, they started to become like more regular. So this was still before noon. All this is happening is still before noon. So I called one of the nurses at the hospital that I was planning to give birth at, and she encouraged me to come in. Of course, they asked all those questions like, how far apart are the contractions? Have you lost your mucus plug? Do you feel like any fluids have come out of you, or any waters come out of you? And I said, at this point, no, none of that has happened. I haven't had a bloody show, anything. It's just the contractions are really intense. Now, I decided I just was going to go to the hospital. They told me to come in because I was getting induced anyways. They just wanted to check to see what was going on. So I got there to the hospital. We get there and they check me. And they let me know that I was only about 1.5 centimeters dilated. But based on my contractions and how they were coming, that I was in labor, but just not active labor yet, because I hadn't started dilating. I hadn't progressed with dilation yet. So they decided to keep me there because I was getting scheduled to induced anyways, to get induced. So they decided to keep me there. And now it was just like the weight game. So I was taken to my room to labor in. And I went for as long as expected without any type of help. Like, I was trying to, get through my contractions on my own without, any type of like medication or like a IV drip or anything like that. Like, I really just wanted to do it on my own. So my contractions, they stopped being, so I did that for as long as possible. But at this point, I was, they gave me a peanut ball. So it's kind of like a exercise ball, but it's shaped like a peanut. It's supposed to go between your legs and help you with dilating. It's supposed to help open up your pelvic area and help you dilate. So that's what I was doing. And so I'm doing that, switching sides back and forth, trying to breathe through these contractions because they are rough. Like, when I was having them, I literally couldn't talk or communicate with anybody while I was having the contractions because they were being monitored and everything. So they were seeing like how big they were. So I wasn't being overly dramatic. Like, they saw, and so they gave me a minute in between. They come in, they ask you, are you okay, and they check on you, check your blood pressure and all that type of stuff. So in the midst of me having the contractions, of course, that everything around you is not stopping. So I'm going through that. In my labor and delivery bag, I remembered to bring hard candy. That was something that I looked into, and they said they recommend that regardless, I guess it's recommended if you are going to be if you're going to be getting any type of like pain meds or epidural or something, they would recommend you have like hard candy or just fluids. You can have that, but they don't want you to have like any type of solids, because you're about to go in labor, or you're in the process. So I was doing that. I got my my IV put in, but the nurse, for some reason, like, she was having a hard time, and she ended up sticking me like 3 different times and kept missing the actual vein. So me having the contractions on top of this lady not finding the right vein, or just can't see, or I don't know what her I don't know what her issue was, but I'm like, okay, do you need assistance? Can we get somebody else? Because I know I got some veins, all right, and you having issues that you having with not finding the vein, it's bothering me. Okay, it's bothering me, because you're supposed to be giving me IV, and your study just sticking me, and it's hurting more and more, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. I knew that for a fact. So they did get someone else to help, to assist the person. That was the girl that was doing it, because she couldn't get it right. And I was like, at this point, you've done it 3 different times. Let's try someone else, because I was over it at that point, and I was already in pain. So I'm like, I don't want to be even more agitated. So we got someone else. They were able to do it, and it worked out. So at this point, I have my IV. I don't have an epidural at this point. I'm just laboring on my own with the contractions and doing it the best way I can, with remembering to breathe and pace myself. So I'm doing this. My guy was there going through that with me. But I was more so just trying to like focus on what I was there to do. And at the room that I was in, I was like at the top floor, and I could literally see like the sky and the lights. And I know it sounds weird I'm saying the sky, because you're gonna see the sky if you're looking out the window, but what I mean was I was like rooftop, to where, because I was at Children's, the labor and delivery part of the hospital I was in at Freighter is Children's. Like, they coincide with each other, because the labor and delivery department is inside of Children's, where you have your child. So babies that were being brought there or sent somewhere else, the helicopters were landing over outside my room, so I could see that. And to me, it was helping me to get my mind off of the pain that I was going through, because it's, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, that's a baby that's being saved. Oh, that's a baby that's gonna be all right, because they're coming here, or they're going where they need to go to get the assistance they need. So that was helping me at that point, just seeing that. So that was really, I felt like that was a really like special time. It's something I really was internalizing, and just thinking like, I know those mothers and the parents are just as worried and as I am, or I would be. And just, I'm like, they've been through what I'm going through right now, and they have their baby. So it's just like, just thinking like, okay, There's other people that have gone through what I'm going through, and something happened to their baby. It was so many eye openers for me at that point. I'm thinking, like, if something happens to my baby, this place will be able to help, or they would know where to send my child to help my baby, right? And then also, I'm being reminded that there's other people that are going through, or that have gone through what I'm going through right now. So it's going to be okay. So that was helping me keep a level head and keeping my spirits up, and I wasn't getting too discouraged with the process that I was going through. It was helping me a lot, like more than I realized. Even now, after my child is grown up, and she's older. So anyways, back to the topic. So I'm in bed. Now my request was to like labor around the hospital to help things further progress with me dilating. I mean, that was originally the plan, but unfortunately things didn't go as planned. So at this time, because I was not progressing with dilation on my own, with the peanut ball, with trying to move around, the contractions that I were getting, they were just so intense, but nothing was actually happening with dilation. And then with me still not having my water break, and just things just not progressing like they should or as expected, I was given the option of the staff wanted to put me on Pitocin. Now, for those who don't know what Pitocin is, it is a type of drug that they will give you to help you dilate, to help speed things along, so you're not in labor, or let's say your water breaks and you're not sitting there and your water's broken. It's been over 24 hours or something like that. So it's to help prevent infection from happening down there, and that barrier before your water breaks, you have like this barrier that's going to protect your baby from anything that's, not clean, if that makes sense. So I was given Pitocin. I also was given the option, or was presented the option of having an epidural. Now, like I said, a part of my original plan was to have a natural labor and delivery with no assistance. So no forceps, no cutting if it wasn't necessary, no C-section if it wasn't necessary. But in this case, because I just was not progressing like they thought I was, or even how I thought I was, with it already kind of going into me being in labor for let's see, this was over about 12 hours at this point, 12 maybe 15 hours, not exactly sure, but it definitely hadn't been a day yet, and things weren't picking up. So I thought long and hard about the epidural. I didn't get it as soon as I probably could have, but since in my case there was an anesthesiologist that was available, I went ahead and just agreed to it. So I get this epidural, I get the Pitocin. They gave me the Pitocin first, and that did help things speed up for me. But then also it made me like I started trembling and shaking because I was cold. So that started to happen. They're still monitoring me at this point, so nothing out of the ordinary is happening. And also, I believe I stated that I was tested positive for group strep B. And so I definitely had to be closely monitored and given antibiotics during my whole labor and delivery. And then the baby, the progression of the baby and what she was doing needed to be monitored as well, because they wanted to make sure she wasn't gonna that infection that I had wasn't going to be passed along to her. So at this time, I'm waiting to get the epidural. Now this is the first time, first pregnancy, for everything's a first for me at this point. So they have me sit up, and I needed assistance doing that because my contractions were getting close together, but they were nowhere near. They say they want you to have at least 5 contractions within an hour, 5 consistent contractions within an hour, and they should be about 5 minutes apart before they would consider you to be in active labor. None of that was going on. One minute I had a contraction that was maybe like 10 minutes apart, then an hour, then 30 minutes. It's just very irregular, not consistent at all. So that's how I knew for a fact. I'm like, this is not active labor. That's what they were letting me know. So I get the epidural. You have to hunch over, and you have to be really, really still while they're sticking this needle in your spinal cord or spinal area. And it's like it's not like a dramatic feeling. It's more like a pinch. And then once it's in there, you can feel it in there, like moving around. So it's not like I want to say stabbing. I want to say stabbing feeling. But it's like if someone was running, if you were getting a tattoo, and that little stinging feeling, it's similar to that. But once it's actually in there, it's not to where you're like, it's not too uncomfortable. Like once it's in there, you're fine. You just have to, you've already been still as you can be. Well, at least I can speak for myself. I was being still as possible. And it was done. It got done. I was able to lie back down, but they asked me to lie down on my side and not my back because of where the epidural was, of course. So I lay on my side. So the side I first laid down on my left side. But then I noticed with me laying on my left side, it was just weird. Like my right side went numb. Right side of my body went numb. Right leg, numb. Couldn't feel anything. Left leg, I still felt like I was shaking, and I could feel my leg shaking, like I was trembling. And so I let the nurse know this, and then they brought the anesthesiologist back in, and she kind of moved or tapped the back of the epidural, like the tubing from where they inserted it, and then they had me lie on the opposite side, or just every so often recommended I switch sides. So I guess the medicine would like move around or even out. So I'm like, okay, I thought that was weird, but hey, again, this is my first time going through this, so I'm listening. I'm hearing and I'm listening. listen to what they're saying, what they're recommending. At this point, I want to say this was nighttime. I remember it being dark outside. So if I can remember correctly, it was nighttime, like around 9, not 9 p.m. This would have had to been like 10 or 11, around that time. Because remember, I said I was in labor started to be in labor, going to labor around 5-6 a.m. that same day. So I had been in labor for quite a bit of time, having these irregular contractions, literally almost going into the next day, almost. So they had, regularly had the nurses come in and check me with the Pitocin. It did help me dilate. So I began to start dilating. So with that happening, my body reacted to this Pitocin and the labor very quickly. So a couple hours before, I was only at 1.5 centimeters, right? And then it jumped from 1 to 4 to 5, and not even 30 minutes later. And then I was at 10 centimeters fully 100% effaced, and 10 centimeters dilated within another hour. So by between 10 and 11 p.m. that same day, I was fully dilated as a result from the Pitocin. So if you're catching what I'm trying to get at, is that the Pitocin really just jump started my body. Like, it was already, the engine was already starting to get revved up, and the Pitocin helped it start up and take off, and it did that very quickly. So I got really sick. As a result, I kept throwing up. The nurses were, helping me, and I was getting dizzy. It was just, everything was happening really fast. I just remember shaking and just not feeling good at all. Even all the hard candy, I had some Lifesavers, the fruit flavor ones, not the mints. I had those. All of that, I threw all of that up. Okay, because my stomach couldn't hold anything. Not even when I tried to drink water. That was, not water, ice chips. That was even coming up, and I was only even taking that in, or trying to, just to stay dehydrated, because I was losing fluids from getting sick. So I was just trying. I was going through it. Okay, everything was happening so fast, and I was going through it. I was going through the most. So then, I got checked. They told me I was fully dilated, and then they have a doctor come in, and they're trying to, they're asking me like, "Oh, do you want to? We can start pushing. We can try a couple practice pushes to see, where we are, and it kind of gets you used to how it's gonna feel when you actually start doing the real pushes. So we'll do a couple practice pushes to get you started." So we did that, did the practice pushes. They wanted me to, so this is one thing I specifically remember. I was never asked to bear down and push. I was never asked they never said those words. They just said push. So me pushing, I began trying to push from my pelvic
right? My cervix, my vagina, that area. I'm pushing from there. I'm not bearing down because no one said bear down and push. I feel like the certain types of words that you use make a huge difference when you're trying to explain something to someone that's experienced something for the first time. The way you explain it does speak volumes on how the process is going to go. Now, if the person doesn't fully understand, that's another thing. You need to make sure that what you're saying or explaining on how to do something is fully understood so that the outcome can flow and be as easy as it should be, right? So, yeah. Me looking back on the situation now, I was not pushing correctly. I was not pushing from the area that I should have been bearing down, and I was not doing that. And also, when I was a doctor was in there and they were kind of like overseeing what the nurses were asking me to do. He asked, I remember the doctor, the lead doctor that was on call, he asked if he could kind of feel around to see how the baby was positioned. Would I mind him doing that? And I, of course, said, no, yeah, no problem, you can. So he reached up to feel where the baby was, to make sure that she was head down, and to see if she was facing up or down, because that makes a difference too on how I'm going to push. So he tells me that the baby is facing up instead of head down. Instead of facing down towards my back, she was facing up, like towards my belly button. So her face, she was lying, like, let's say she was lying on her back, she was facing up instead of laying on her tummy. And then he also let me know that my child she had not dropped down to engage into the birth canal. She was still a little higher up. She never dropped. So that was making it a little bit harder for me when I was trying to push, because her head wasn't turned the right way, and it wasn't in it, so therefore it couldn't engage to go down into the birth canal. Okay. So he asked if he could kind of help me get the baby to come down. So I had no problem with that. I'm like, whatever's going to help, whatever's going to make it easier for me, I was all for it. So he began pushing on my stomach, pushing down, moving my belly from side to side, not in a rough way, but in a way that would kind of help my child to move, encourage her to, if she, I guess, to kind of bother her a little bit, so she would move to a different spot or reposition herself. So it worked. But then once he stopped, and then I began to start pushing again, she went right back to the position that she was in. And she kept doing this. This was something she kept doing. So it's like, okay, we take one step to take 2 steps back. We weren't getting anything accomplished this way. So now, me getting to know my daughter and knowing how she is, it makes complete sense as far as why she was doing that. This like what kind of person she is, it makes complete sense. I'm like, that's definitely my child. She has a mind of her own. She does her own thing. But anyways, so they let me continue to push, because I let them know, like, hey, look, I want to be able to do this. I feel that I should be able to do this. And they allowed me to. They didn't force upon me, like, okay, let's assist you with forceps or a vacuum or a C-section. They didn't drill those things down my throat or try to force me or try to convince me to do it. They wanted to stick to my plan as much as possible and do what I was comfortable with doing. So I kept pushing. So at this point, I had been pushing for 2 hours, and the baby was not, we weren't any farther than where we were when I first started. 2 hours in, still pushing. I was getting tired, and you know how they do the little count of, you start pushing, and you're pushing, and they're counting. And they count 1, 2, 3, 4, and they want you to keep pushing this whole time. Like, keep, as they're counting, you're pushing as hard as you can. I'm doing this, and I'm even going past 10. Still pushing, and we were not progressing because I was so determined. Because I'm like, I need to push my child out. This is what I wanted to do, and it just was not working out for me. But again, it was because I was not pushing correctly. And also, there was a nurse there with me the whole time, until she got off her shift. She even stayed past the end of her shift and kept checking on me. And she was so sweet. She was an older woman. She was so sweet, and she reminded me of my great aunt. And she was so nurturing, and she even cried with me. Yeah, because I remember meeting her before when I thought I was in labor and I wasn't in labor. And she was a person that helped check me to see if I had lost if my water had broke, or to see if I was dilated. I mean, she assisted a doctor that actually checked me. But this was when I first met her. So, this is when I first met her. And she was just so sweet the whole time. And I just admire her for just being so encouraging and just trying to, be there for me, because I needed it. I needed that mother figure, because I didn't have mine there. So, yeah. So right now, I think I'm going to just cut this short, and there will be a part 2. So stay tuned, everybody. I'll see you later.